Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Dennis. Today I'm going to do a budget build. So it's kind of a budget build, but it's not all parts are budget. There's just some things I won't compromise on. I won't compromise on power supply and a couple other things that you'll see. I could have gone smaller on maybe the M.2 drive or just chose a cheaper SSD. But you'll see what I'm choosing and we'll go from there. And it's just going to be a system that I can have, or if somebody doesn't really need to be like hardcore gaming or anything like that, and they just want it for everyday normal use, that's what it's going to be for. So here we go. I'm going to show you all the parts, and let's get on with it. Okay, so here's a first look at what I'm going to be either repurposing or using for the first time. So our B450M Pro4-F motherboard that I did a review on, I was going to use a different CPU cooler, but it has a blue LED and I'm not sure if I want to use that yet. I may or may not, but right now I'm just going to use the stock cooler that came with the Ryzen 5 5600X actually, but I'm going to use the Ryzen 5 2600 as the CPU. I've got some budget memory from Kingston, and I have a Western Digital SN550. Now it's 1 terabyte because that's one of the things, I don't know, I just, my thing is, I think 1 terabyte is a minimum putting in a system that somebody's going to use. They just need the storage most of the time. Now, not in every case, but that's kind of my go-to form factor. In this case, there won't be another external hard drive or anything like that. So there should be really no other cables except for what's in the case. So that's a half 912 case that I'm going to repurpose. Have got it back from a customer. I had to do a really deep clean to get it back to any kind of shape. I had to replace all the fans. They had to be replaced. Trust me. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to go and we're going to put it together on the motherboard first, and then we'll transition it into the case afterward. Because I've got a couple of sets of the value memory that I have had floating around for a little while. So I'm going to test those out, make sure everything is working before I put it into the case, as that'll just save headaches down the road. So I'm going to get all that ready, and I'll show you how I do all that. Okay, so one thing I want to show you is, of course, the M.2 drive. Okay, we've got it here. We're going to install it into our Ultra M.2. There's a little divot here, and of course you have to look on your M.2 to make sure it matches up. You're just going to push it in, usually at about a 45-degree angle. You're just going to secure it with a screw. So we have to get our screwdriver, our M.2 screw, which is provided with the motherboard manufacturer. Okay. Now I magnetize it, and it just goes in here. Okay, this one. Okay, only takes a couple turns, and it's in. That's all there is. That is all you have to do to install an M.2 drive. Nothing more. And that is our hard drive. So, second thing we have to do, because we're going to use a stock cooler, it uses the back plate. So we're going to take these brackets off, okay, because we don't need these. So I'm just going to take those off real quick. Okay. Same thing on both sides, and of course you can see that's just where they're going to secure it. Now, because it's sitting on a motherboard box, it's not dropping down. If it did, then you have to brace it somehow, okay? So just keep that in mind. Our brackets are off. Our back plate is available. And before we do that, of course, we have to put our CPU in. So take this little handle here, push it out from this tab. Okay, so pull it out, pull it up, make sure it goes all the way up. Okay, don't force it or nothing, you know, break it off. Get your CPU. All right, so down in this corner, okay, that's our little triangle, and our triangle is indicated right here in the motherboard. So line it up. Okay, see how it just pops down? Once it pops down, that's how you know you got it in the right place. Push this back down underneath this little tab. So I'm just trying to do this so you can see it. Like that. And now our CPU is installed. So next, we're going to put our CPU cooler on. Okay, so the stock coolers come with pre-applied thermal paste. Okay, so you can see it there. make sure the AMD logo is coming this direction, so it's away from your memory slots. Line it up with your brackets, and then you're just going to screw it on. So you should be able to set that right on. And again, it's pre-applied thermal paste, so that's why you don't see me putting any on. Okay, once I line this all up, we'll tighten all these down, usually in a diagonal pattern. We'll secure our CPU fan to the fan header, and we'll go from there. Okay, so I usually start with the left-hand side. Once you hear it start to turn, stop, go to the other side. And then do the other sides here, and then you'll be done. Okay, so I lifted it up a little bit because there's always one that has a bit more of a gap than the others. So it's a little bit harder sometimes to get that one started. So then I'm just going to reposition this and continue to tighten all the screws. Okay, it's on there. So we're just going to find our CPU fan header and plug this in. It is 4, so PWM controlled. So our CPU fan header is here. It's got a little tab on one side. So you know, line this up with that tab. All right, line it up. And once you've got it lined up, you'll know, and you'll be able to just push it on down. Don't force it, because otherwise you're going to have a problem. Okay, should just slide in there like that, real easy. You can twist this around and tuck it underneath, twist tie it, whatever you want to do. I usually just tuck it underneath. I will twist tie it at some point in time, but it's hidden, it's out of the way, and for now I'm fine with that. So we have our hard drive, we have our CPU cooler, we're going to put in our memory, and basically we're going to be able to test it. Now the one thing I didn't mention was the power supply. So I do have a power supply that I got from Be Quiet. I'll show you all that, show you what it is, talk a little bit about it, because they did provide it for this video, and then we'll go ahead and we'll do some tests with the different memory just to see what we actually have. Okay, so we're going to put in our memory. Because I have 4 sticks, I'm just going to have to make sure that this lines up. See how this is not lined up? So you turn it around, make sure it's lined up with your slots, and then put it in. So I'm going to occupy all 4 slots this time. And once I know I got it in there, alright, just make sure here. Goodness gracious. Okay, once I've got it in, then it's just a matter of pushing it down, and it'll click in place. And I'm going to do that with all 4 sticks. And that's it. Memory is installed. I'm just going to show you that. Okay, that's what it looks like. Usually if you're only using 2 sticks of memory though, just use slot 2 and 4. Okay, just to keep that so you know what you're doing. So at this point we're all ready to go. I am going to get another power supply that I do have for testing purposes, just to try out what kind of memory I'm actually got in here. I don't even know how much it is, to be honest with you. But it fits the motherboard, it goes with the motherboard. As long as it works, none of the rest of it matters to me at this moment. Then we're just going to put it in the case and fire it up, and hopefully if I've done everything right, it'll continue to work. But we're going to test it here right now and find out. Okay, so until I get the power supply from Be Quiet, for purpose of testing, I'm going to use this power supply from Corsair. But it's completely overkill for this budget build, so I'm not going to use it for the final product. I do have a smaller, it's a GTX 950, I believe it is. It's very small, but it still has a DisplayPort, HDMI, and DVI-D. So it'll give me the ability to do anything I want to do. And for somebody that's a budget build and they're not looking to do anything more than just maybe some casual gaming, it'll work just fine. So first I'm going to plug in our power. So you got a 24-pin power cable here. It has a little tab. Look for the tab on here. It's usually on the outside. And line it up and plug it in. Okay, so line this up, tab on the outside, and then just push down. Now, I might have to brace it a little bit because it's not on a motherboard, so you won't hear that click always. There, I heard that click that time. And now it's securely in. You can always test it if you try and pull it out. It doesn't come out, you know you're in there. So the next one is just our 8-pin, okay, CPU power, okay. And it's going to go, let me just zoom back out here a little bit. Okay, so our power is right here for 8-pin. So again, line up your tab, okay, and just put it in there. Okay. Again, you'll hear it click in place. You may not always hear it click. Most of the time you should, but sometimes when a power supply has been used a bit, you may not hear that click. So again, just pull it gently, or not gently, but just give it a good tug. If it doesn't come off, you know it's on. So that's it. So now we're just going to insert our graphics card into our slot here. Okay, so we'll have to move our motherboard so we get a little bit of offset. Put our graphics card in, line it up with the slots, and push it down. And you hear that click, and that's it. So we're just going to connect our HDMI, keyboard and mouse, and then we'll be good to go. Now, this does require a 6-pin power, so I have a PCIe cable already set up. And again, the tab goes on the back on this one. So I'm just going to steady it a little bit and push down, okay? And that's PCIe, all right? So as long as none of these are interfering with the fan or anything like that, we're going to be able to start it. I have a special little device that goes on our front panel connectors, and I'm going to use that to get it all started up with. It came, and I think it was a mistake actually, it came with a motherboard I bought. Not sure it was supposed to be included or not. And it just sits here and lines up. And it will slide on. And it has a power and a reset on it. So, kind of a neat little gadget. So, I'm going to plug everything in, and then we're going to go to our screen and see what happens. Okay, so we're going to turn on our power using our little switch here. And hopefully our memory is going to work okay. And then we'll be able to determine as well what I've got in there. There we go. Okay, that took a little bit longer than I was expecting, but at least it's starting up. F2 or delete to get to the BIOS on this one, just for anybody that needs to know, for an ASRock motherboard. Okay, so I did hook up the keyboard and the mouse afterward, but all I did is when I did a restart, I started tapping the delete key to get in here to show me what I've got. So I have 32 gig of memory in this, 4 sticks of 8 gig DDR4 2133 memory. Processor's running at 3400 megahertz. And you can see all the UEFI version, all that kind of good stuff. I'll quickly give you a quick look around in here if you wish. OC tweaker, well, it doesn't matter if you wish. I guess I'm just going to do it, right? So you can see everything that's in here. Just really quickly, just going to go through it. All our tools, everything like that. Even an RGB LED. Some motherboards will let you select the color on boot from here. So even if your other things aren't working, you can go in there and set it up. HW monitor, which is kind of cool, tells us our CPU is running at 36.5 on idle. Motherboard is 26. Our RPM for our CPU fan and all our different stats. Your security. So security in here, actually, you know what? I never thought of. I don't know if I know enough right now to show you, because you need the fTPM. Let's see if I can find that for Windows 11. So how to get to the that in here? Let me see if I can find it, because I'm not 100% sure. Okay, so we're going to go to Advanced CPU Configuration, and you're going to scroll down here, and you see where it says ADM fTPM switch. So you have an AMD CPU fTPM. You can select to disable it, or, well, in this case, I guess it looks like it's enabled by default. But let's see what happens. Okay, so no, it's not on by default. It actually, because you can still look, if you look down here, you'll see it's not defaulted. It's on disabled. But you can go in here, click AMD CPU FTMP, click that. Now I'm going to set it back to the default because right now I'm just going to leave it where it's at until I'm ready to do that. So we'll look around a little bit more here. So looking into this a little bit further, after you've done that, there's one more thing you have to go to. You have to go over to security, secure boot. So, no, I'm just going to close that. You have to go in here, click on secure boot mode, and right now it's on custom. You want to set it to standard. Once you've done that, you'll be good to go. And you won't have anything else to do. It should just be able to work. Now, before you do this, just don't do this unless you're ready and you have Windows 11 ready to go. Because as yet, there's no clear direction on do you need to do this before putting 11 on, or do you need to do it after. So wait till you got the OS, then you can go in and do this. Or if you need to go in, if it doesn't work, then you can go in and do this. So remember what I said, follow those steps. You can turn it on before you're ready to install Windows 11, and hopefully everything will work out all right. So I'm not going to save anything right now, because I will do this just before I decide to install Windows 11. Whenever that might happen to be, I don't really know. So secure boot mode, put it in standard, switch it under advanced, the CPU configuration like I just showed you, and you'll be good to go. So I don't know there's much else I can really show you here. Let me just see. Well, of course I showed you the DRAM frequency. Mouse is not working in this very well, so anyway, I'm not going to make too many changes because there's other features you can have a look at in here if you're interested. Different tools, SSD secure erase tool, NVMe sanitation tool, I don't know, instant flash, I'm guessing that's for a BIOS, and easy RAID installer. I am curious on this one, RGB LED, let's see. Yes, so you can set it up to breathing, red, green, blue, speed, and all that kind of good stuff. So you can play around with that if you wish. Just make sure anything your changes that you're making in your BIOS, you know what it's going to do. You've read up on it, and just don't make changes that you are going to have problems with later on. Now, if you do, hopefully you'll be able to just clear your CMOS, go back in, and you're good to go. So I'm going to get out. All I'm going to do now is wait, get our other power supply. I'll show you that when it gets here. Put it into the case, and make sure everything works at that point. I think I'm actually going to try the other memory too, just to see. For a budget build, 32 seems like a little bit of an overkill. So let's check the other ones out. If they're all the same, well, so be it. Okay, so we got our power supply in. So here we go. 80 plus gold, pure power 11 FM, 750 watt power supply from Be Quiet. We're going to get out, have a quick look at it. Of course, it's part of our build, so we might as well see what it's all got. So let's get it open and have a look. So, of course, they always include a user manual. It's always good to actually go through that and see what you got. So in here is just going to be hiding our cables. All right, nice bag full of everything. Your power cord, of course. I'll show you all that in a second here. And you have some screws to put your power supply in. Silica, don't eat that. And of course the power supply itself. Let's get this out and have a look. So here's a look at our power supply. I think it's pretty nice actually. It's a little bit more fitting of this build. All right, most important part, of course, most people are going to want to know is that it's fully modular. Okay, your drives, your PCIe, CPU, and other peripherals, 24 pin, of course. So it's easy to identify what cables need to go where and going to your power supply, of course. So let's get a look at the cables. And yeah, it's a little bit more fitting for this build. I'm going to like it. It's going to just be much better. So let's have a look at the cables. So something I want to point out is the reason I like this power supply, it's a little bit smaller form factor. You can see the difference in size. Some of these other power supplies are a bit older. They're, depending on the size of your case, they work great. But this is going to fit in more cases. You're not going to have to worry about fit if you have a smaller case. It's just going to fit. So what do we got for cables? We got our 24 pin. One thing you're going to notice right away, it's not relish colors. It's black. So it'll fit with any theme you decide to go to. So there's your 24 pin. So just to go over the cables, you get number of cables in the package. You get 8 in total. Of course, your 20 pin, which is 20 plus 4. So, you know, you can count. That's what it is. I don't know why it says plus 4 though. Anyway, it's a 24 pin. That's what all modern motherboards use. You have one CPU P8 and one CPU P4 plus 4 and a P4 CPU as well. And you also get PCIe 6 pin for the GPU, and you get another PCIe 6 plus 2 pin times 4, and you get PATA 2, SATA 9, and they even give you one if you have a floppy. Okay, pretty good. It's not too heavy. It's pretty light. It only weighs about 3.1 kilograms. So the other thing that it has, of course, is it has it's ready for the 3090. So the cable connectors, it has an NVIDIA SLI RTX 3090 ready. Okay, so it'll run up to the most current, most powerful power supplies. Of course, like I mentioned, it's fully modular, sleeve cables, and the cable length to the motherboard is 55 centimeters. Okay, and some of the things I always look at in a power supply is overcurrent protection, under voltage, over voltage, short circuit protection, over temperature protection, and over power protection. That way, regardless of what kind of thing you got going on, it's going to protect your system. That's critical to me. So that's why I'm going to include it in this build, even though it's slightly overkill. But hey, it's a budget system, and it was provided for free. So you don't get more budget than that. And it's a fantastic power supply. I've used a few in the past, and I don't plan on stopping now. Okay, so I'm going to hook up the cables that I need to use in this build, which is not actually going to be a lot. So I'm going to be a lot of cables I won't use right away, but they'll be there if I need them in the future. And then we're going to go and we're going to start putting things into the case. So I did want to show you a little bit more about these cables. When you look at them, you can see they're very easy to figure out where they go, even if at first, like myself, you're not always certain because different manufacturers make them slightly different. But one of the things I want to point out, okay, so you got your pin here for your power, 24 pin for your power. You got 2 connectors. You got your other one for your CPU and your PCIe cables and your SATA, okay? So you've got more room for a couple more, which we're not going to need to use, so I'm just not going to put them in there. But they also include the cable. So if you've got a power supply that has 2 of the 8-pin CPU connectors and you want to use it, which quite often you can use just one unless you're overclocking. But if you're going to overclock your motherboard, well, you're probably going to need this. And it's room there to plug it in. You've got the cable. So if you decide to upgrade this, put it onto a higher end system down the road, you can still continue to use this. All right. So I just wanted to point that all out, give you a quick show on that. Let's get on to the build. And of course, if you're interested in your AC input, all your voltages, everything it's able to handle, it's all right here. Okay. I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything. So typically when you're doing your builds, first thing you're going to do is take your cables from your power supply, feed them through the back, put your power supply face down. Okay, so you've got your fan going down onto, we have a filter here, which makes it really hard to get at, but that's the way the case is designed. So first thing I'm going to do is take all these cables and feed them through the back. You can feed them one at a time, whatever you want to do. As long as you get them all back in there, you're good to go. Now, something I want to mention is these are called ponytail, okay? With the newer power supplies, the RTX 30 series, as soon as you get up to, I think it's might be a 3070 Ti and upward, they use more power. So you're going to have to check the power supply along with the power requirements of the graphics card, because you may not be able to do this because it will be too much, and you will want two separate PCIe cables going to your power supply. So keep that in mind. Otherwise, you're going to wind up ruining your power supply and maybe something else. Okay, it's going to fit like that. And we're going to fasten it from behind. Okay, so we're just going to fasten it in here. 4 screws, and that'll be it. So our 4 screws are going to go in the power supply down here. That'll hold it in, and it will be ready to go. Okay, so line up your screw holes for your power supply. Tighten it up. Move on to the next one. And just keep right on going. That's it. Power supply is installed. Next thing we're going to do, I/O shield. So we're going to put that in there. And then we'll be able to put in our motherboard. So I/O shield is in. Just fit it from the inside, push it in, and that's all there is to it. I just don't want to waste too much time showing you all this stuff. It's pretty easy to figure out. So we're going to lay it down. We're going to make sure all these standoffs are still tight, and then we'll put our motherboard in. So put the motherboard in, fit it against I/O shield. Now double check all your standoffs, okay? Make sure that there's a screw that can go into your standoffs on the bottom, and that you haven't missed any. So I did have to add some standoffs, readjust, and then I fit it in place. Now it's just a matter of putting the screws into each hole, tighten it down, and our bulk of our build is done. And then it's just a matter of hooking up our fans, and hopefully you can make what's old new again and make it look good. Sometimes the toughest part could just be finding the right size screw. So once you've got it, everything else should be able to go in pretty easy. Should be pretty simple. Once it's snug, stop. You don't want to over tighten, break off screws, break off standoffs. I find over the years of building PCs that it's not their best feature. And oftentimes, if something's going to go wrong, I find that's one of the key points that it'll happen sometimes. And something that keep in mind if you ever do this is the case itself tells you at the time of manufacturing how everything goes in. But at the time that this case was made, M.2 drives weren't even around. So where these holes are supposed to go for the standoffs, you now have M.2s that are occupying those spaces. So they've repositioned things a little bit on the motherboards. So you're going to have to make sure you line those up the way they need to be. So be very careful when you're going over all your standoffs. Make sure you got them all and they're all in the right places. Otherwise, you could cause a short on your motherboard and, well, you're going to have problems and you may need a new motherboard. So anyway, going to set it back up, connect all our cables. There's really not a whole lot left to do because we've already done pretty much everything up to this point. Big thing is RGB fans. We got some cabling to do. Hopefully I can make it look okay. They won't show because it's not tempered glass on this case, but I want to make it look as nice as I can. Okay, so first thing I did is put the CPU cable up on top. There's a little opening up here so that we can plug in our 8-pin for our power for CPU. 24 pin is going to go up here because that's just where this motherboard sits because it sets up higher. Our PCIe cable is just sitting on the inside. The cables that we're not going to need but are there for future If we want to add a better graphics card or add an SSD or something down the road. Oh, it's already got an M.2 drive in it. I just tucked them away in here for now. And all our case cables and everything, we'll do those shortly. So I'm going to turn it around. 24 pins going to go in here. 8 pins going to go there. And really, there's not much else to plug in except our connectors on the bottom. Our USB 3.0, which is right here. And yeah, so now one thing I didn't show you that I want to show you now is I'm going to be using for Wi-Fi the ASUS Wi-Fi card. Okay, it's the AX3000 dual band PCIe AX AX58BT. BT just standing for Bluetooth, which is what this cable does. So that's going to go on the bottom slot. Graphics card is going to go here, and it'll be wireless. And again, it's the almost budget build, not completely budget build, because you could easily swap out graphics card, swap out CPU. You got a high-end system, and relatively low cost. So first thing I'm going to do, like I said, is our 24 pin for power. Line up your tabs with the tabs, which is going to be on this side here. So I can get that in here. My kingdom for better eyesight. Oh no, don't do that. There we go. Okay, there's something I want to point out. That power supply has a little notch that tucks in. They don't all have that. That makes it a little bit easier for you. And then we're just going to fit that in there. Come on. Yeah, be a pain in the butt. Okay, I'm going to put that in there. We'll hear it click. Hopefully. Yep, you hear that? Maybe not. Anyway, so that's clicked in place. That's nicely tucked behind there. Now we're going to do our 8-pin CPU cable. We're going to try and make sure it stays clear of the fan on the top. Again, it's got a little tab. Tab goes on the top. So you're going to have to orient. This can be a little bit tricky. So don't fret if it gives you a hard time. It's pretty much normal for this to be a little bit hard. Don't be like that. Don't make me do it. Okay. That's the easy way to do this. There's an easy way and there's a hard way. I'm usually opt for the hard way. Oh my God. My eyesight is so bad. Okay, so we just pop that in there. Again, you should hear it click, but sometimes they're quite faint, and so the only thing you can do is take it and just kind of pull it. If it comes out, see, it's not coming out. If that had come out, I just meant it wasn't in there properly, it wasn't connected, and that could cause you problems down the road. So just do it a little tug on it. That'll make sure it stays in place, and you won't have any issues. So we've got our power to our motherboard. We're going to connect our fans, put our Wi-Fi card in here, put our graphics card in here, but before we do that, we're going to connect up the other cables. So a couple things I've been playing around with is feeding the cable for the fan on the back. Okay, it's connected here with the other one, so the two of them connect together. All right. Now these three fans came in a kit for the RGB, so the cables all connect here, and our RGB connector is right here. Okay, it is a 12 volt, green, red, blue. I'll take this off when I'm ready to put it on, but it's just a reminder to me. And I'm going to find a way to hide these cables as best I can. And we also have this little bit of a hub where you can plug in other fans if you want to. And a couple of those, and of course now all you have to do is put one of these into a fan header on the motherboard, and then all our fans will be powered up, and our RGB just has to go to the RGB header on the motherboard, and then our case cables, and well, we're getting there. Okay, so we're going to start hooking up all our cables. So this is just a speaker, so we won't use that. Front panel connectors are here. We'll hook up our USB for our Wi-Fi for the Bluetooth part of it, and our HD audio. And one of the connectors will also go on the addressable RGB. So we're going to hook that up. I'm going to try and show it to you as best I can. That's why I kind of zoomed in here a little bit. And we're going to go from there. So here we go. Okay, so I'm basically just feeding all my cables inside first. I'm going to do the, so we have our reset, HDD LED, and we're going to have our PLED, positive and negative, and our power. So that's all going to go in here, and it's pretty much the same every time. So you're going to have your PLED, positive and negative, on the top, left to right. So, and the one underneath that is the HDD LED. So I'm going to actually do that one first, because that way I can still see on top. Yeah, so HDD LED just goes right on these two pins in the bottom, nearest to the left. Okay, so it just goes right in there. Take your PLED, positive and negative. All right, they're usually joined together. Okay, so you can put them together like this, or you can do one at a time. It doesn't really matter. Okay, so you can do it like that. And we're just going to put those, it's going to go right over top. Well, I'm actually going to do one at a time. So do the positive first, and the negative right beside it. Those two cables. And then what we have left is the power, which will go on top, and the reset, which will go on the bottom. Reset on the bottom right there, and power on the top two pins. Okay, so right there. Now we'll feed these back out and try and tidy them up as best we can, or maybe I'll just leave them set here. I don't know yet. But either way, I'm going to do as best I can to tidy this up. It's not really a big deal because nobody's going to be able to see the cables anyway, because once the side panel's on, it's not tempered glass, so it won't matter. I hope that will help somebody out, because that's the hard part when you're putting your system together, to know where they go. Okay, so the rest of the cables after that are pretty simple. So we have our USB 3.0. It's got a little tab. There's a tab on here. You just put it in, line that up. Okay, so the tab is on the right hand side. So just line it up, and just be very careful, because you don't want to break the pins, and it'll just pop on in once it's in the right spot. There we go. So I heard that little click, and that's all there is to it. So I'll tuck this cable. Maybe we'll just leave it like that. I don't know. Well, I'll figure it out later. For now, it's fine. And so the next one is our HDD, or sorry, our HD audio. Has an AC97. Those haven't been used for years. You could clip it off and just cut it off. It wouldn't really hurt anything. I usually just tie it back. Okay, just tie it back. But the HD audio goes on the far left, pretty much on every motherboard I've ever come across. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And it only goes in one way. There's a little blank space, so you look where that's missing a pin, and that's the way it's got to go in. And that's it. And we'll deal with this cable later. This is our USB. So for our case, I'm just going to plug it in this one. You can put it in here, you can put it in here, it doesn't make any difference. And yeah, I'm probably not going to worry about these cables too much. They're not going to be in the way. This one I'm going to tuck back a little bit, just to try and get it out of the way a bit more. I want it to look as good as I can, you know. So I might do a twist tie with this. Unfortunately, because this case, when they made it, they color coded everything, which is fine at the time. But nowadays, pretty much they're just black and they just will look better. The nice thing is, if you ever need to add cables, you can get to your power supply on the bottom pretty easily. There's lots of room. So I'm going to do a little twist tie on that just to make it look better. And that, I believe, is all our cables except for I plugged in a fan up here. All right. And I'm going to do another. So I've got this here. I'm just going to try and show this to you. I'm going to go in the back. Okay, so on the bottom, I'm just going to show you that here, is our little fan hub, and it's got a little piece of this. It's sticky, so you can put it wherever you want, and this just goes into a fan header as well. So I'm going to find a place to put that. In the meantime, I'm just going to leave it there, and we'll find a fan header to put that on. So miscalculation on the number of fans I'm using. So I've got a bit of a mess here. I'm going to hide that once I have the graphics card in and the other adapter, and I'll find a way to kind of squeeze it in there somehow. And so then I just have the one cable left to plug into fan header, which is here. So line this little tab with the tab that's on there and just plug it in. I'm just like so. That's it. So now we'll have to do our best to tidy this up. Of course, this is going to be for our graphics card once we put it in there. So I think it's time to put our graphics card in, see how well we can hide all this. I'll put our adapter in and see what we got left. Okay, so I just put the graphics card in here. This cable is going to go up in here. This kind of sets there without any kind of big problems. Not the ideal situation, but as long as it's not interfering with anything, I'm just going to let it be. I do have to plug in my Wi-Fi adapter underneath, so I'm going to go ahead and do that next. But I'll probably plug this in. Now I'll do that last. And then we'll be ready to put the cover back on, fire it up. Hopefully everything still works. Okay, so a couple things left to do. We have our RGB header here. Almost forgot about that cable. And then, of course, our other USB, which is going to go in here for the adapter, which goes in this slot. When you look at these adapters, the thing you got to keep in mind is it's got an arrow here. When it's 4-pin, okay, so 4-pin is 12 volt. The arrow indicates where the 12 volt has to go in. So make sure you line that up with where it says 12 volt on the RGB header. Typically it's on the left, but verify in your manual just in case. Just have a look at it and make sure you're putting it in the right place. Otherwise you could short your motherboard and, well, you're going to have issues. And one thing you can look at is when you look on here, there's a little arrow that points to the where the 12 volt is going to be. So the arrow is pointing to this side here, which is on the left, like I mentioned. So we'll line this up. I don't know how well I can show this to you, but I'll try. Okay, so you have to be very careful, as you do not want to bend these pins. Because if you bend them, well, okay, so I'll just plug it in, it's in there. It'll stay there once you got it in. I'm not going to worry about these cables. Once this is on, you're not going to be able to see them anyway. And everything's just going to work. So I left the little adapter on for the little cable for the Bluetooth. You absolutely don't need it. If you've got Bluetooth and everything's working, then don't use it. So we have a little slot here. We have to take one of these out. Otherwise, it's not going to fit through. So I'm going to do that, and then we're going to put it into its slot. Okay, so I remove the slot. We just got this, just push it down into it. Goes in really easy. And then just secure this in a bracket. Okay, so there's just a little screw hole there. You might have to maneuver this a little bit. You don't have to be super diligent and tight or nothing like that. So that's in there. Graphics card is secured. Actually, nope, I need one more screw right here to make sure that's in there good. I mean, it's not going anywhere it's so light with just one, it's not going anywhere, but we'll put that in anyway. Everything's here, so we're going to plug in our last USB to the USB here. Again, lining up that little notch with the notch that's on here. And it's going to go in just like so. Again, I know it's hard to see and hard to show you, and cables get in the way, all that kind of good stuff. It just pushes in. That's all there is to it. Okay. We want to make sure this stays out of the way of the fan for your graphics card. So we'll do our best to make sure that happens just by pushing this down a little bit. That'll probably be enough to make it happen. I might twist tie this off just to make sure it stays down. And I do believe everything is now connected. Now it's a matter of turning it on, see if RGB all works. Of course, I don't want to forget our power for our graphics card. So 6 pin is all we need. Actually, we could probably use that one. Actually, might look better. Anyway, we're not really going for looks on this one, that's for sure. So just plug that in. And yeah, like I said, it's not about beauty on this one. It's just functionality. And I'm going to tie it down. I have to go to the back of the case, do all the cable management, and then we're going to come back and make sure I haven't missed anything. Okay, so our back cover is on, went on no problem. Everything is connected in the front. Just wanted to quickly show you the side here. So just to show you the back. So we got the power connected, or connected our antenna, HDMI for our graphics card, and you can see I got their keyboard and mouse in there, and everything should be up and running. So once I power it on, hopefully we'll see it on the screen. Our lights will come on, and then it'll just be a matter of using the software to set the RGB colors, and everything will work fine. Okay, so let's power it on and see if I screwed up or not. Okay, looking good. 2 fans are lit up in the front. I don't know if you can see that. There we go. So those are blue. The one in the back is blue. That's pretty much it for RGB, but it kind of does look, makes it look a little bit nicer than it might have otherwise. Once our side panel's on, you won't be able to see those cables inside. And you can see that it is booting up on the left-hand side. Everything is good to go. Perfect. So just to make sure the RGB works, I'm going to quickly just see it's already set up in some kind of breathing mode already. And I'm just going to go in and make sure that, see if there's anything I need to change. And the one on the top actually is working as well. I'm going to show you that. Okay, so you can see this one is lit up. So that's, you know, all 4 fans are lit up, RGB. Let's verify I can change the colors with the software. So, okay, so ASRock has AS RGB LED. Now, I thought PolySync was in here somewhere too, but let's open this up. Okay, so that's it. Detecting peripherals, LED color, all that kind of good stuff. All right, so right now we've got everything is on blue. Let's switch it to green. And let's hope that that works. I have no idea actually if it'll work or not. Did that work? There we go. Oh, okay, so here's what we got. We have the 2 fans, this fan, the one, and the 2 in front that are turning green. But apparently the fan I put in the back is not RGB. It's just a straight blue fan. So, you know what? I'm going to have to replace that or do something with it. We'll figure it out. But I'll keep it on blue. And what the heck, we'll leave it on blue. It's a budget build, like I said. You can't have everything. And that's it. So we're just going to leave it at that. I don't know if there's any other settings. Doesn't seem to be. All right, so that's it. That's all we can do for now. Everything is turned blue, and we're good to go. All right, everybody, so that's the end of the video. It actually looks pretty cool. I've used this case, came back, it was, I didn't even know if I could use it again. I had to take all the original fans out, put in new ones. I put addressable RGB that I got from Deep Cool, actually. They work great. They're running at full speed right now, but I'm going to be able to adjust that with the fan settings, hopefully. But it's not overbearing, and it sounds great. I actually switched it back to the green. I'm going to switch the fan in the back, the rear exhaust, to maybe just not to be RGB, because it's only got 3 connectors right now, and I'm okay with that. It doesn't cost much for a fan. Or maybe I'll just leave it blue. I don't know. Put everything blue, and maybe the person won't care, or if they do, they can switch it themselves. Total cost of this build, not including power supply, which was given to me by Be Quiet. If you take that out of the picture, and of course it was free, so basically it is no cost. This is less than $500 by far. I mean, a couple $100 for the CPU, $100 for the motherboard, and I think maybe another $80 for the Wi-Fi adapter. So beyond that, I'll have to figure it out. You got to add in the M.2 drive, so maybe a little more. Either way, I think it looks really great with those 2 fans in the front. I've never had it set up that way in the past. It's got way better airflow than I anticipated, and it works great. Cabling, it's not great for cabling just because of the layout of the case, but it's just because of some of the components I use. When you use budget stuff, things aren't going to be as aesthetically pleasing as they could be, but when the side of the case is on, you can't see anything in there anyway. It's not tempered glass. It's a solid steel panel. So anyhow, I hope that helps somebody out. Hope I showed you the cables well enough. Hope I explained everything. I hope you like it. Yeah, thanks for watching. If you're new here, think about subscribing. Hit that bell for future videos as they come up for notifications. And more, I have the memberships on my channel now, so join us. So if you want to support the channel, especially now that YouTube is doing the taxation thing and it just took a big chunk, it would really be appreciated. Not required at all. Content ain't going to change. But if you want to support the channel, it's there. And I just wanted to make sure I mention it again. Probably won't hear me mention it a 3rd time, so that's it. So that's up to you. If you have any questions on the build or where I got the fans or anything like that, let me know and I'll get back to you. And I gotta say, I'm using the stock cooler for AMD on this, and it's not bad. It's actually less noisy than the fans themselves. So actually doesn't make much noise at all. I'm very pleased with the build. I really am starting to like ASRock motherboards. I just find they just work. And they work and do everything you want, especially now that you can do that TPM module. And this budget build will be able to run Windows 11. So just something to note. So thank you for watching. See you in the next one. Have a fantastic day. Bye-bye.